Hello and welcome to my table for Dday at peleliu. I think I pronounced that correctly. Okay, so we've done some playthroughs of Omaha Beach, and then we did a playthrough of Tarawa. I actually did 3 of Omaha Beach, but that's because I kept getting the rules wrong. And I actually probably should do a 4th one of Omaha Beach, because even in the 3rd one I was getting some rules wrong. I think Tarawa I did a lot better. And now we're moving on to peleliu here. Tarawa was a very random game. And it was a game that, all of these games so far have had a lot of randomness to it, but that's what makes a good solitaire game, right? The Tarawa it amped it up a notch. And the one thing about it that seemed to frustrate me is there's a lot of rules for inland versus coastal. Just identifying inland versus coastal was brutal. Somebody pointed out after I had completely finished the series that I did that wrong the entire game. And it just makes me, roll my eyes, right? Because it's like, come on, I thought coastal was this, and sure enough, coastal was something else. So that was very frustrating to me, and it's definitely lower on my list in terms of what I like to play. I think if I have the time to play one of these, it would be Omaha Beach over that. Now this one, I'm still finishing the rules, but I'm already falling in love with this one. And it still has a lot of the luck Tarawa has. Not as much, though. But the thing I'm loving about this is there is no such thing as coastal versus inland anymore. So what you have is and then there was elite versus non-elite and all that nonsense, too. And then after you defeated a unit, it either escapes or it doesn't escape. I mean, there was all kinds of weird rules and counter rules, and it works in this case, but not in that. Anyways, I don't want to ramble. This game has one type of unit. And, well, actually, there might be several types once you reveal them, but they're all one set. And it has one set of depth markers. Actually, it has 3. I always have to see. There's always exceptions in these games, but there is no inland versus coastal, is what I'm trying to get at. It's just you have a unit and you have a depth marker. That's it. There's nothing more mysterious than that. Now, there are 2 other types of depth markers because we do have tanks in the game. And then there's this thing called counterattack. So you put those in there, and there should be 8 of those. So put them in a cup. I guess you randomly draw those later. I haven't gotten to that particular rule yet. There are 4 tanks, and they're going to go on the 4 spaces that have these dark gray tank symbols. The tank symbols are these ovals. There are other ones that have lighter gray tank symbols. Don't put your tanks there. Every tank is going to have a depth marker that's randomly placed. You do reveal the tank once. What you do is you shuffle them face down like that, and you randomly put them on, and then once they're there, you get to reveal them. And then every tank gets disrupted. Now, one thing I know that has come up several times is people are pointing out that there's these yellow disruption markers, and those are supposed to be for the Japanese, and the green disruption markers are for the Americans, and I always do it backwards. And my answer is, hell yes, I do it backwards, because when I have I'll just show you, when I have a green unit on the board, and it could be because I'm getting old, but these are the same color. So if this disrupted marker was on my unit, and I'm taking my turn, and I'm trying to figure out, okay, am I done with my turn? Am I not done with my turn? This just looks like that. It's easy to miss. And then the next turn, I'm sitting there saying, was I supposed to remove that disruption marker last turn and I just forgot? Or did I get disrupted this turn and I forgot? And so I'm sitting there confused. And these Japanese markers look, they're red. You can put this on there and blam, that's as obvious as it gets. So when I know when a Japanese marker needs to be undisrupted, it's real easy to see. And then if I put a yellow one on the American, bam, just at a quick glance of the eye, I can see that's a disrupted guy. He doesn't look like every other American that's already there in that spot. So that's why I do it. I do it because it's easier on my eyes. The contrast is what you want. Having similarity, you guys are fools if you play that way. That's all I have to say. I mean, why do you do that to yourself? I mean, you know, life is supposed to be easy. You want to have it hard, go to work. So anyways, that's what that's about. So yes, I do put them one backwards. And you can ignore me and do whatever you like. And I know the few who brought it up to me also recognized that there was no harm in what I was doing, so I'm definitely not picking on them. Okay, so setup. You're looking for basically two things. You take these tokens here, and you put 15 of them in the reserve. I highly recommend you put 15 in the reserve first. Then you take what you have left, and every single one of them is supposed to go on the board somewhere. It'll just help you with your sanity. I mean, the rule book does tell you how many you're supposed to have on the board, and that's fine, but it's really hard to find them. So the setup is like, I don't want to say it's painful, but I mean, it's just hard to find everywhere they're supposed to go. So don't mind my poker chips. This board is just stubborn, and it won't stay down. And so I was trying to, you know, basically train it to stay a little lower. This entire northwestern edge of the island, or at least of the map, I don't know if I'm facing north, south, east, or west. He usually has a compass. There it is. So the compass is north is that way. So the entire northern end of the island has nobody on it. So you'll see that the first marker is here. So I can safely put my poker chips on for now to hold it down. And what you're looking for are two things. This little, that's called an artillery symbol with the dot, or you're looking for that X. See that little black X there? Those are the two things you're looking for, and bam, just like Emerald, you're gonna place your stuff down, and there are two triangles that have artillery. These triangles are supposed to be used for another scenario. Now, let me back up there. There's three scenarios in this game. There's what you call the basic scenario, the extended scenario, which we're going to do. That's the 2-day scenario. And then there's this bloody nose ridge or something. The bloody nose ridge uses these triangles. At this point in time, right now, as I'm setting this up, I had 2 extra markers, and there were 2 artillery symbols. So I'm putting those 2 extra markers on those artillery symbols. I am not aware that I'm supposed to use those triangles or not. I thought that they were only used in a bloody ridge scenario. But the problem is I have 2 extra tokens, and I can't bloody figure out where they would go if they don't go there. So that's my dilemma, and I will move. Let's remove the poker chips. And, you know, you look real quick. I mean, I'm not seeing anything anywhere else. I do see 2. There's that artillery symbol that you're supposed to be looking for. So I'm going to assume that that's correct, and I reserve the right to tell you I knew all along it's supposed to go somewhere else later. So you'll see that they scatter all over the board, and there's quite a lot of them. Now you'll notice some of them are disrupted, and that was an easy thing to do. You just, after you shuffle the deck, you draw a card, and so every yellow, red, and green on the entire map gets disrupted. So at the start of the game, they're just disrupted, and we don't have to worry about them. So my kid was messing with my tripod, and I'm a little angry at him because now everything doesn't work like it's supposed to. All right, so anyways, getting back to the game, that's the condition. All those units are on, and then you have 3 tanks that have the number 1 on them. See that? And then see this says 001 below it? And what that stands for is that stands for orange 1. And then you see this blue amphibious tank symbol. That means that these tanks start on those exact locations. So there's 3 tanks. They start on the spots. You sort all the American units, and they go in their various spots. These are Japanese actions. So like the M action will be available on turn 3. And so those are turns when specific actions are available. There are events that don't get activated until a certain turn. That turn order track up there tells you when things become active. It's actually pretty cool. As far as other components go, if you've played the other games, you have these little green bands. You put those to the side, and just like other games, when you have 2 pips, that's what these things on the side are. Those are pips. That's the strength of the unit. Now, don't confuse that with this number 3, which is also the strength of the unit. Think of it this way. The 3 is the strength of the unit. The 2 pips are maybe the health points of the unit. How about that? So the way you would read this is it has 3 strength and a range of 3. That's what the second number is. This triangle is a randomizer. Sometimes you're told that the triangles get hit, but the circles don't. And so that's where the triangle comes in. And then that 2 pips there, when it takes damage, you flip it over, and you can see it goes to 1 pip. Well, some of our units have 4 pips on them. You flip it over, it has 3. Well, then what happens if it takes damage again? Well, that's where these come in. These all start at 2 pips. And then when you flip them over, they become 1 pip. And that's these green bands are basically weakened units. And so I just put them here. They're A, B, C, D, E, F, G, etc. And so I just have them in different rows based on which unit they're a part of. So they're just here for when I need them. They're pretty easy to grab. Real easy to recognize. They have the green band, and they also have the RDC written next to them. What else was set up? There's a bazillion depth markers up there. There's only 3 that go into the game, and it's at very specific locations, B6, B5, and B1. And that's straight out of the rule book, so nothing random about those. They get depth markers. Obviously, the disruption was random, so you may play your game, and this guy's disrupted, and those ones aren't. But anyways, that's how that works. It's really funny because since I've done 2 other D-Day games, I don't want to go through some of the basic rules again, but I'm aware that some folks might not have played those before, and this might be your first one. So I'll just try to run through it real quick, and I think most people now understand gameplay starts on video 2. So if you made it this far, I apologize for not saying this earlier, but video 2 is where the gameplay will begin. I'm just going to go through some basic rules here. The first thing to understand is that we will be drawing cards, and this card has many components to it. So the top is for landing, these are the events, and then the bottom is for fire phases. And we'll get into those when the gameplay starts. The terrain key is going to be very important. It always is every one of these games. For now, just understand that the different terrains might mean different things. As far as the units, we did explain the strength and the pips and all that stuff. This U means it's got an unlimited range. In fact, that's not supposed to be on the board. That's my artillery. And then the Japanese units are all hidden right now. So if I try to do an attack on them, then I would reveal, and there's a process will follow. So the big thing to understand is that this space here has a solid purple, a solid blue, a half purple, and a half what I call orange or yellow. Okay, so these solid ones are called intense fire, and then these are called steady fire. So what that means is if I drew a card like this, gold, red, and green would fire this round. The other colors would not. So this is a blue, which would not fire. If it did fire, that intense fire means it hits anything that's in a solid circle. And so this would guaranteed be hit, and it would lose a strength and have to get reduced to one pip. If I draw a purple, he's going to get hit and reduced to 1 pip. Now, if I draw a brown or a gold, he will get reduced if it also has a triangle. And you'll notice that here it has a diamond. So in that case, this tank would not get hit. That tank way over there, see that one? That has a diamond. So it would have taken a hit. Now, there's other rules with tanks. I'm not going to get into everything, every nitty-gritty detail, but some of them can only, like for example, this guy can't hit a tank unless if it's in the steady fire, unless it has this symbol. See that little oval symbol there? So the red guy can hit a tank as long as he has the diamond. Everybody else can only hit a tank if it's in the intense fire. Intense fire hits anything, by the way. Tanks are not immune. If a blue or purple comes up, this guy's taking a hit and there's nothing he can do about it. If the brown or yellow comes up, or brown or orange, then he has to have, not only does he have to have the triangle, he also has to have this oval symbol, or otherwise tanks don't take damage. Now, regular things like this artillery hit would take a damage. As long as that triangle comes up, he's taking damage. There is no armor on him. That other additional check is because of the armor of the tank. So we're going to go through various phases. It starts there at number 1, and then 2, and then 3, 4, 5. Now they're big boxes because this deck of cards is supposed to be there. And then whenever you draw a card, it actually fits perfectly on each one of these spots. I don't do that, but you know, they put plenty of space on the board for you to be able to do that, so you can follow along. They also give you this little phase marker so you don't forget what phase you're in, and you can move it, you know, along. I don't do that either. It's pretty straightforward. Now, the devil is in the details. The thing that makes this game complicated is always the rules and the exceptions and the terrain, and, you know, like, there's a good chance that this airport runway is going to have a different set of rules than this, which is going to have a different set of rules than that. They always have rules like that, and you got to keep track of them. There's a lot of procedure for how to do combat. There's procedure for how to do what's called a barrage, which is, I don't know, I always refer to it as suppression fire. Anyways, that's the thing with this game. I will describe most of those as we encounter them during the gameplay, but if you can understand these basic concepts, especially the concept of intense fire versus steady fire, I think from there it's a straightforward game, and you'll be able to follow along with everything else. And then we do have, it's funny because catastrophic loss is redefined in every game. This one, catastrophic loss, occurs if eliminated infantry counters exceed the current turn's CL value. I guess there's a catastrophic loss value on each turn, and if you look here, for example, there's a 36 on turn 20. So this is where we would put our losses, and they're basically saying infantry and heavy infantry go here. So if we have engineering units or other things, that wouldn't happen. Now, I had mentioned that compared to Tarawa, I'm sort of excited about this because there is no such thing as inland versus coastal. So all the bloody confusion I had around that goes away. The other thing that's interesting is there's no engineer versus headquarter phase. Now the headquarters do what the engineers used to do. So you could see that, at least on the first blush, it seems like John Butterfield, or the designers of this, are sort of like simplifying this game, and hopefully not simplifying it to the point that it's too dull. I'm being told by anybody I talk to that this is the hardest one they've ever played. So I'm assuming this is going to be quite the challenge, even though there's so many areas I've just identified where it's been simplified. Anyways, that's it. 20 minutes. If you have any questions that are on the surface, just let me know. I'll try to respond. Basically, in a nutshell, this is setup. It wasn't very hard to do. Oh, I forgot to go over the components. You do have these hero markers. They come out through events. These smoke markers, same deal. They come out through events. Garrisons will be used during HQ phases. In the old games, those were used during the engineering phases. We have these fortification markers. I don't know what they're used for yet. I haven't gotten to that part of the rules. I do know if you play the Bloody Ridge scenario, which is its own unique scenario, they are used there. I already talked about the disruption markers. And then the other important thing are these tokens. The U.S. action taken, action under fire, the caves, the flamethrower, and then this Rupertus in command. All of that is used for Bloody Ridge scenario. It's not used for this game, completely out of the game. And then my copy of the game had this. It was an HQ unit that has R3 on the right, and it says Hero on the bottom and Hall on the top. This is actually a Tarawa piece. I checked my Tarawa game, and my piece looks identical to this, except the HQ doesn't have the white background. So I don't know. If somebody knows why I need to keep this, let me know. I think chances are my Tarawa copy was just newer, and there must have been some kind of mistake with it, and this was meant to replace it. I can tell you that this copy didn't come with the mounted map. It was an old 2015 copy, which is funny because this is a game I only bought maybe a few weeks ago. And I was really disappointed. I bought such an old version of this game that I had to go buy the mounted board as a separate add-on. And I bought that straight from Compass. And of course I got a new rule book dated 2017, so I'm going to use that one. And but these components were so old that when I was punching the board, it was those old punches where if you weren't careful, the cardboard would rip. And man, that makes me angry. I hate those components. DVG used to have those in some of their older games. And I know you guys are trying to save a buck, but man, do not ever go back to it. I will pay the extra $10, please. None of the other D-Day games that came out before this one had those kind of components. So I must have gotten an old copy, like an original first edition of this. So I'm not very happy about that, but that's water under the bridge. I'm past it. I punched everything out. The only thing that's remnant is some of the corners are tattered. Like, for example, this one, you can see that corner has got like a knobby sticking out. And I'm sure those of you who like to clip are probably sitting there with your hands shaking, wondering, how could I let such atrocities get by? So anyways, thank you. Strap on, buckle your seatbelts. Let's go get slaughtered. I did quite well with Tarawa. I don't expect to do that well again. I won't say too much about Tarawa anymore, but I really think I got lucky with a few events in that one. Otherwise, that would have been a much more difficult game. So anyways, thank you for watching and joining me at the table. I'm going to go ahead and get this uploaded and continue to read the rules. I don't know when I'll get a chance to truly dive into this. I'm playing some other board games through this week with other folks, but I am anxious to get going. After doing the other two D-Day games prior to this one, I'm sort of just doing a marathon of D-Day games here, and I'm finding that these rules, I'm able to skip pages of them because they're identical. So the good news is I'm feeling very comfortable with this. The bad news is I'm paranoid I'm skipping something I'm not supposed to. So anyways, let me get that finished up, and I will see you soon, and we'll start the slaughter. Stay awesome.